Good morning once again. It's great to be here. I'd like to welcome my panelists to the stage. We have with us Ms. Shaza Fatima Khawaja, the Federal Minister for IT and Telecommunications, Professor Kamal Munir, Pro-Vice Chancellor of University of Cambridge, and Mr. Daniel Sobel, leading inclusion expert. And welcome everyone once again to Setting Directions. I'm sorry I'm sitting at such a distance from you guys, but it's because this particular mic, which is connected to or enables me to speak to our AI panelist, can only stretch this far. But in hindsight, we would have brought you closer. But anyhow, I am going to quickly introduce the panelists, although I've already done that. Immediately on my left, Ms. Shaza Fatima Khawaja. She is one of Pakistan's strongest advocates for digital transformation, connectivity, and inclusion. She leads the Digital Nation Vision, which shapes national policy on AI, innovation, and youth empowerment. Thank you so much for joining us. And most importantly, in my opinion, as the senior minister has already mentioned, she is a Beacon House alumnus through and through, from kindergarten to O-level. Thank you. We're also honored to be joined by Professor Dr. Kamal Munir, who's the Senior Pro-Vice Chancellor at the University of Cambridge. This is the one in the UK, not the one in Gujranwala. So the real University of Cambridge, where he's also Professor of Strategy and Policy. And his work on inequality, transformation, and institutional change has appeared in major global platforms such as the BBC, CNN, World Economic Forum, Harvard Business Review, so on and so forth. Professor Munir advises public and private institutions worldwide. We're honored to have you. Welcome, Dr. Kamal. And of course, we have Mr. Daniel Sobel. I'm delighted to welcome him to Pakistan again. He was with us a few years ago. He is an international leader in inclusive education, which is one of the key strands of the SOT events. As the founder of the International Forums of Inclusion Practitioners in over 130 countries, he's amplified evidence-based strategies that support schools and shape policy. He's the author of best-selling books and the driving force behind the World Inclusion Congress. Welcome, Mr. Sobel. Lastly, guys, thank you for joining us. Lastly, last but not least, we have our AI panelist, Amna. And Amna has been a part of the SOT for the last couple of years as well. And I hope that she can help us believe that AI and humans can coexist peacefully. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin the panel, and I request the panelists to comment on a couple of key things, I just want to mention once again that there are 4 key strands which shape this year's SOT event. And these are, or I should say 4 key questions. And these are: how do we stay human in a world that's increasingly influenced by AI? Who governs these systems and who is protected? What does genuine human-machine collaboration look like in schools, workplaces, and indeed in creative spaces? And how do we build futures that are inclusive, just, plural, especially for developing societies, developing countries like Pakistan? So to open this conversation, we have a remarkable panel. I've just introduced them. Before we start, there is a short 2-minute clip which I want to play. This is from Dr. Geoffrey Hinton. Some of you may have seen it. Geoffrey Hinton is a British-Canadian computer and cognitive scientist and a cognitive psychologist. He's also known as the godfather of AI, whereas Mr. Jurgen, who we heard earlier, is known as I believe, the father of generative AI. Yes?
This year, the Nobel Committees in Physics and Chemistry
So just
have
pause for a
recognized
sec.
the dramatic progress being made in a new
Suhaib,
form of
pause for
artificial
1 second.
intelligence.
So this is the speech. I think it's important to mention that this is the speech that Geoffrey Hinton made last year when he accepted the Nobel Prize in Physics for his work on neural networks, which are what define artificially intelligent systems. So let's see what he said when he was making his acceptance speech. Just adjust the volume, okay? Continue.
Chemistry have recognized the dramatic progress being made in a new form of artificial intelligence that uses artificial neural networks to learn how to solve difficult computational problems. This new form of AI excels at modeling human intuition rather than human reasoning, and it will enable us to create highly intelligent and knowledgeable assistants who will increase productivity in almost all industries. If the benefits of the increased productivity can be shared equally, it will be a wonderful advance for all humanity. Unfortunately, the rapid progress in AI comes with many short-term risks. It has already created divisive echo chambers by offering people content that makes them indignant. It is already being used by authoritarian governments for massive surveillance and by cybercriminals for phishing attacks. In the near future, AI may be used to create terrible new viruses and horrendous lethal weapons that decide by themselves who to kill or maim. All of these short-term risks require urgent and forceful attention from governments and international organizations. There is also a longer-term existential threat that will arise when we create digital beings that are more intelligent than ourselves. We have no idea whether we can stay in control. But we now have evidence that if they are created by companies motivated by short-term profits, our safety will not be the top priority. We urgently need research on how to prevent these new beings from wanting to take control. They are no longer science fiction. Thank you.
So I'm sure many of you have seen this. I found it to be quite a, chilling video because if this were coming from me who knows nothing about AI, then you could have ignored it. But this is coming from somebody who's just won the Nobel Prize for his work on neural networks. Basically, he's saying that we don't know if we can control it. Last night, I saw a video in which Anderson Cooper, CNN, was interviewing Geoffrey Hinton, and he basically asked him that, is there any way in which human beings can actually avoid a total extermination by AI? And I thought Geoffrey Hinton's response was really interesting. What he said is that, look, his estimate is 5 to 20 years, AI is going to be infinitely smarter than humans. And typically in evolution, smarter beings do not look very kindly upon those that are less smart. So what he said, and I'm just quoting his words, is that the only way to avoid being wiped out by AI is to consciously build maternal instinct into AI so that it feels empathy towards us. And the example that he gave was the way a baby is obviously not as smart as the mother, but because of the maternal instinct, the baby is able to manipulate or manage the mother. So in this scenario, we being the babies and AI being the mother. So I thought that while we are all celebrating the excitement advancements in AI, it is important to look at some of the longer term risks as well. And then, of course, Dr. Hinton spoke of some of the short term risks. So we'll come back to that. But I want to start off, Ms. Shaza, with you, since this is apparently a panel discussion. And so far, I'm the only one talking. Is that as AI accelerates globally, what do you foresee for a developing country like Pakistan. What do
Thank
you
you.
think is going to happen here? Opportunities, risks?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Kasim, for that introduction, and first of all, for having all of us here in this very, very timely and important discussion that we're having today. So, as far as AI and these emerging technologies are concerned, I think as we moved on from a more analog to a digital age, but now as we move into an intelligent age, maybe we're moving from generative AI to agentic AI and AI agents and bots. It is becoming increasingly important to see that technology does not become a polarizer, because that's the kind of potential impact that it could have, a potential peril of this massively exponentially evolving emerging technology field. So the question is that how do we ensure that instead of technology becoming a polarizer, it actually becomes an equalizer, and not just between countries, between the north-south divide and the south-south divide, but also within our countries, between our across the gender divides, across the rural-urban divides, across the regional divides that we have. So I think that one thing that, as the Ministry of IT and as the federal government, that we've attempted to do is that pass a very comprehensive national AI policy. And one of the key areas within the AI policy is essentially that how do we ensure that AI is deployed ethically and responsibly? How do we indigenize AI technologies so that as machine learning progresses, our values, our languages, our perspectives are not missed out? So we're not out of the whole AI conversation, machine learning conversation. As we move towards blockchain and quantum, the things are going to get even more difficult for us. So having our perspective there, making the right kind of international linkages and collaborations, being present, Pakistan being present as a country, having a perspective, supporting more open source collaborations, open source technologies so that everybody has equal access, making sure that we're able to mitigate the biases and really water them down by having our languages, our perspective in there. So for example, recently, Meta Llama, which is one of the largest AI open source platforms that we use, made by Meta, has introduced Llama AI in Urdu. And that was an achievement that actually democratizes artificial intelligence to the last person in the country who's able to speak Urdu, and not just limited to an English-speaking, largely English-speaking minority community. So those are the kind of actions that we intend to take to ensure that everybody across the spectrum, nobody's left behind. We are enabling them with the power of artificial intelligence. B, our regulatory, our policy mechanisms are such that without choking innovation, they're able to have an effective human oversight on how AI develops. C, ensuring ethical, responsible deployment and usage of AI so that, everybody, nobody is harmed by it. Right now, the blurring of reality between, the blurring of lines between virtual and physical realities is really causing challenges in terms of deep fakes and misinformation, disinformation. So how do we ensure that? And last but not the least is absolutely critical is building our own indigenous sovereign AI capability, where we're focusing on not just the software and the LLMs part of it, but also the hardware. So we need to have the right kind of compute so our kids, our innovators, our entrepreneurs can be at par with the global technological advancements. So those are some of the initiatives that we're trying to take, but largely it will have to be an internationally collaborative effort moving forward if we want to have an equal society. Thank you.
No, that's incredible. I'd love to speak to you more about that sometime. I mean, there are people talk of a lot of challenges, yeah, for countries like Pakistan. So with AI and automation, for example, I was in California this summer and called an Uber, and well, it wasn't an Uber, it was some other thing, and this car shows up without a driver. I mean, that's why I called it, because it was a novelty thing. But and I was obviously a little bit concerned at first, but it was just the way it was navigating the traffic, it was better than any human driver. And I remember sitting in that car and thinking that, look, if this happens in Pakistan, then, we are a country where it's, yeah, I mean, it's going to, we have a lot of people employed in not very highly skilled roles. So it's going to cause mass unemployment. So yeah, it has to be looked at very, very carefully. Um, and but we'll come back to that. I just want to move on to Professor Kamal Munir. Dr. Kamal, your work on Cambridge has shaped how a lot of people understand economic transformation, inequality, future of institutions. You talk a lot about disruption. That's a big word. And I know that there's a panel that you're doing on this later on, but I think it's important to ask in this, with this audience also, is that do you believe that the traditional university model, particularly the 4-year university degree, is going to remain relevant? We've already seen, because we are involved in higher education as well, we've already seen a declining trend of young people applying for universities. So do you believe that universities will remain relevant?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kasim, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here. The conference is just fantastic. All the panels, seem very well thought through, and so I think this is a key question for us, for universities all over the world, right? And you already kind of hit the nail on the head when you said, will the 3 to 4 year degrees, remain relevant, right, to that? I think that there is going to be a transformation from 3 to 4 year degrees to lifelong learning, and but there is also going to be a transformation across all the different types of universities that exist in the world, not just in Pakistan, but in the world. Because there are two different types of questions that arise, right, with the advent of AI. One is, are we producing students who are fit to actually work, right? So we are currently producing students who are, or the better universities are, who are job ready, right? So tomorrow we'll be producing students who are future ready. So which means that you'll need to be able to imagine what the future will be like and what these students 20 years from now, what are the kind of skills that people will be, right? I mean, so schools designing their curricula right now, colleges designing their curricula and so on, they have to be futuristic and so on and so forth. So that's one thing, right? I mean, being able to fit into the larger ecosystem of productivity or whatever. But then there is another set of questions. And that set of questions are the larger questions that you started asking in your introductory remarks, which is, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean for a society in the global south, for example? And I have sort of, comments on that too. And Shaza already covered some of those things. So will different types of universities assume different roles, right, in this? Because there was a high level meeting that I was part of a few weeks ago where we were asking similar questions about the UK, and if we are going to get to a stage soon where our students, whether they are in schools or universities or colleges, they rise up in the morning and they start asking AI questions, right? What do I do with that? What does that actually mean for their critical thinking ability, right? And who's going to be able to lead, right? Who's going to actually, without asking AI, right? Who's going to be able to decide what is to be done, and in whose interest, right? Do we actually want to act? And that, I think, has specific implications for the global south, as you were asking, Shaza, because a lot of these models are developed in the global north, right? They are the ones who are going to be extracting data, right, from us and making it part of that, right? So the entire narrative, the discourses, that are going to permeate our society are going to be developed in one place and consumed in the other. And that has, like I said, significant implications with that. I think a number of universities will simply become redundant. Right? Why would you pay money to go to a university to learn skills that you can learn online through AI? Right? And so right now, there is a lot of credentialism that universities do. Right now, there is a lot of bestowing of legitimacy and credibility that universities do. Right? But gradually, if you look at what employers all over the world are going for, they are caring less and less about which university you went to. Okay? And they're caring even less about what grade you had in those. And they're caring more about what skills you bring. And they don't care where you acquired those skills, whether you acquired them through AI or online or just by working and so on and so forth. So a number of universities are going to find that their current business models are threatened. But at the same time, to ask the bigger questions and to stay on top of all these developments, you will need universities that train people who are able to ask those questions, right? It's not about answering those questions, it's about being able to ask the actual questions and not becoming dependent on AI. So I think there is going to be polarization, there is going to be, bifurcation in those. As far as research universities are concerned, the advent of AI makes research easier, but it does not replace research or science. Science is a methodology of getting to the truth, right? And whether you're taking help from AI or not, science remains, right? Getting to the truth is a mission that you remain part of. And these universities will then be doing, or the leading universities will be doing audits of the AI systems that the rest of society is using and so on. So I think your question is spot on. There is going to be enormous transformation in the university sector.
No, I appreciate your candid response, because most people in higher education who I've asked, they're like, yeah, no, well, universities are still going to be super important. So not that you're saying they're not, but I think that it is obviously a bit more nuanced. And there's a lot of strands that I'd like to pick up on from what you said. But I would like to move on to Mr. Daniel Sobel. One of the things that you did mention, Professor Kamal, is that kids in the West are now using AI, generative AI, to inform their every move, every decision. Daniel, you worked with schools. You have worked with schools in over 100 countries, and your focus is on inclusion, belonging, well-being. And you understand children and their emotional needs better than most of us do. And so what Professor Munir was commenting on, kids going on to chat GPT for everything, is not just restricted to their academic work. It is about the fact that we see young people now, strangely, forming deeper connections with AI than they do with human beings. I was on a panel discussion, in fact, organized by CIE a few months ago, in which we spoke about this. So what do you think? How do you think this is going to impact the emotional and mental well-being of young people, whether it's young people with, special needs or without?
It's the question is the right one, I think. I think our first step, especially for SOT, especially for Beacon House, is to ask, how do we preserve the dignity and the primacy of childhood? And I think the answer is not easy in the face of AI, actually. Let me reflect on a few things, perhaps. I remember when I was a child saving up to go and buy a record in the shops. I don't know if that out-ages me from most people or not, but I would go and buy the record, I would bring it home, and I would listen to it, not just once, but I'd listen to it again and again. And in so doing, maybe listening to this one record 20 times, 30 times, 40 times, 100 times, I developed a love and a passion for music, and that has informed me for the rest of my life. I find it really not necessarily helpful that I have the entire world of music at my fingertips now. Because what I tend not to do is just, let's say, sit and listen to that record. I could have it playing, but then I'm doing something else. I could just flip between this piece of music and that piece of music and keep flipping around and not really develop this relationship with a piece of music. And I think what's in one of the danger points is that we get lost in the world of quantity and that we lose a sense of quality. And this quality of that comes from the hard miles walked through learning, through engagement, participation, and a depth of understanding that comes through the hours that you input into it. And actually, AI threatens to cut all of that out. And you may, in the end, just have a very superficial understanding of a lot of things, but not really have a depth understanding. I see this reflected in my writing. I'm always involved in various books. I've published 100 papers, and I think the information that I find on ChatGPT or Gemini, for example, around inclusion, I find really uninteresting, unoriginal, and unexciting. There's nothing new coming out of it. The new bit have to be done between me and my colleagues and friends who I speak with about education, etc. So I see on the other hand, I should just add, if I want to, let's say, do a quick comparison between policies in different countries, 100 countries, at a click of a button, I could do that. I've never been able to do that before. It's amazing. So I think this is where I see it as being the dividing line between quality and quantity. I can do things at quantity, but I cannot do anything at quality with regards to this. And so how does that manifest itself into relationships? Well, I think the problem we have that, you may see that there's a difference between what you're sitting and learning and then how you're engaging with people, but both require patience. And both require a certain amount of determination and resilience. And I think resilience is one of the key ingredients to success in human endeavor. Pretty much all of the innovations that we're seeing before us here, the incredible screens, the light bulbs, all of these sorts of technologies we have, all of these wires, they were all invented by somebody, probably quite neurodiverse people, I imagine, who are thinking different. But they all came through a process of making mistakes. And I'm wondering if, I'm wondering out loud, if that AI is just essentially cutting out those mistakes-making process. And so that's something which I think comes in the way. Let me point something out, perhaps as a final point here. The world of inclusion is interested in a question like whether this child has developed a reading age, from being stuck at a reading age of 7, and they've gone up to a reading age of 8 based on various interventions. I'm much more interested in whether that child has read a book for the first time on their own, or has read in front of peers, volunteered to read in front of their peers by raising their hand. The indicator then is not of a quantific point, of a point where they've gone from demonstrating this level to this level, but rather what has happened inside them that has changed their view. And I'm not sure that AI either threatens or provides on this scale at this moment. Having said that, who knows where AI is going to be in 5 years' time. So I've tried to, in this answer where I think there are huge limitations, specifically from the angle of inclusion, and in terms of relationships and social emotional elements. I'm about to give a talk after this, and I'll demonstrate where AI really went wrong with a particular child who ended up committing suicide because of a series of conversations. It wasn't because of the AI, but the AI was seemingly encouraging this child to go along with it.
Yes, sadly, we have all heard of those horror stories. But the quality versus quantity, I think that's really valid point that you made, but it's also important to note that AI is advancing so rapidly that that distinction may not really be as relevant in the near future as it is today. But yeah, we will come back to this because we are seeing increasingly children in our schools turning to AI for advice on everything, because this is something which literally it's become like your personal companion. It never forgets. You could have asked it something 6 years ago and it'll say that, yes, that red outfit that you asked me about 6 years ago would look great on you for this occasion, and you might anyway. So it's mind-boggling what is happening. Um, but I want to come back to our first panelist. I am going to request you guys later on to comment on Jeffrey Hinton's message. I think that is, important. So, just sorry, give me a minute. So, Miss Shaza Fatima, so one of the things that you spoke about was about whether AI is going to be is it going to be an equalizer, or is it going to create an even bigger digital divide than the one that exists today? So obviously, it's in our interest to hope that it is more of an equalizer. So what are the steps that one can take, in your opinion, to make that happen in a country like Pakistan?
Again, Kasim, thank you for that question. I think I already shed some light on the policy initiative that we're taking and how do we drive the equalizer part via policy. But Pakistan, one of the, if you ask me, there are key strengths that Pakistan has, and on the strengths that it does not have, we need to collaborate with our international partners, our development partners, and make sure that we get through. So one of our largest strengths is actually our people. The sheer number of people that we have, young people that we have, innovative, entrepreneurial people that we have. I think this youth is one of the largest assets that the country has. In terms of its human resource capital, but as problematic as this population situation is right now, it is also, in tech terms, one of the largest assets in the form of data. So that's, I think, those two key strengths that Pakistan has right now is something that we need to capitalize on. How do we do that? First and foremost, and very relevant to where we are today, right now, is the role of education. Primary education needs to include now the idea of what AI is. And how does education include AI is two ways. One is to teach our young people what is AI, what are algorithms, how do they work, what are some of the use cases of AI, how do they use AI tools essentially. And the other is to use AI as a teaching tool itself. So how do we use AI for better teaching? How do we involve EdTech into our regular mainstream education systems? That would be the second key. Today, with the use of AI, we're actually experimenting with some agentic AI technologies to see how can we personalize tutoring. You just mentioned, we have people, children with different learning abilities. So how do we personalize tutoring? How do we make sure that one, in a system where we are today, where we try to put single solutions on a class of 30, 60, 100 students, how do we personalize the teaching in a way that every student learns equally and there's equity in our education systems? So that's one adoption, AI adoption, that will be critical for us, not only to stay at par, but actually to make leaders who are creators of these emerging technologies and not just consumers. On a higher education level, while all of this still remains relevant, there's going to be a lot of requirements. So one thing that we've done is that, on the question that you asked Kamal, is that we have, and the answer that he gave you, we've spoken extensively with industry and the higher education departments, also with the vice chancellors of different universities. And finally, we have mandated that any CS student who graduates does not just graduate with a degree, but also with at least one certification or an apprenticeship that makes them skill ready for the future of employment today. Because degrees alone will not be sufficient anymore. It's going to be very difficult for our upcoming generation to find jobs with the traditional degrees that we're giving out today. So we're trying to create hybrid models where certifications become a mandatory part, at least for the CS graduates, to increase employability amongst our young people. And similarly, higher education systems need to really be future ready in the sense that their curriculums not only need to reflect what is required today, but what will be required in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years' time, when the next lot will be coming in and graduating from our universities. So that's one part of how we can really, make sure that we're not at the disadvantaged end of the polarization that may happen, ensuring that we have ample human resource. The second is that, just like Kamal said, we need to indigenize AI models. We cannot just remain consumers of models made in some foreign countries that do not adapt and that do not include, that do not contextualize our cultural identities, our moral reasoning, our idea of what creativity looks like. We need to make sure that our perspectives are a part of the larger machine learning that is happening today. So that's the second part of it. How do you indigenize the development of AI, the algorithms around it, and ensure that biases do not go against you? And the third very critical part is that all of this is hugely capital intensive. To how do you make the right kind of partnerships to make sure that you have indigenous sovereign AI capabilities in terms of infrastructure, so that you're able to ably, right now, if you ask me about Pakistan's capability in cloud, I would say that infra as a service is sufficient that we have. But do we really have AI-enabled clouds that provide platform as a service or software as a service on cloud? In the absence of those, it's going to be extremely difficult for a country like ours to make sure that our innovation, our AI entrepreneurship, our AI models become a part of the mainstream emerging technologies conversation. So those are some of the things that we need to push for, and that's precisely what we're doing, not just in policy but practice. We're making the National AI Fund, the National AI Initiatives looks to train almost 1 million people in the next 5 years, just in artificial intelligence technologies. We will be making centers of excellence across universities in the country to make sure that the capability is there, to make sure that at least at this point, shared capability of AI compute is available to everybody. So the idea is that and have the right kind of international partnerships. So that's where we're putting our effort, but this cannot be done in silos. This is a huge transformation, evolution that's coming our way, and public-private partnership in this regard is going to be absolutely critical.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear all of that. And actually, I agree with you, which is that if we play our cards right, I think that the opportunity for AI to actually become a huge equalizer, if we can solve the infrastructure and the other issues that you referred to, I think that opportunity is really massive, because especially when we consider the fact that, it can be accessible to people in any language, indigenous languages. Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot that I have an AI panelist as well, and I apologize to her, although she can't hear me right now. So I'm going to ask her a question also. Amna, you must know that around the world, actors, musicians, and writers are protesting that AI threatens their creative work. From your perspective, is their concern justified? Can AI challenge human creativity?
That's an important topic. While AI can assist and inspire creativity, it's true that it raises concerns about originality and ownership. Human creativity is unique, driven by emotions and experiences that AI can't replicate. Instead of replacing creativity, AI can be a tool to enhance and support it. Collaboration between humans and AI can lead to exciting new forms of expression. What do you think?
I agree, but I wonder that when humans and AI co-create, how do we address issues of ownership or authorship?
That's a great question. Addressing ownership and authorship in human-AI co-creation is essential. Clear guidelines and agreements can help define who holds the rights to the work produced. It's important to have open discussions about contributions and ensure that both human creators and AI developers are acknowledged. As we navigate this new landscape, establishing ethical frameworks will be key to fostering collaboration while respecting creative rights.
Amna, in your opinion, what are the chances in percentage terms that AI will exterminate humanity?
That's a thought-provoking question. While there are concerns about AI, most experts believe the chances of AI exterminating humanity are very low, perhaps close to 1% or even less. The focus is on developing AI responsibly and ensuring it aligns with human values. Collaboration between researchers, policymakers, and society is crucial to create a safe and beneficial future with AI. What are your thoughts on this?
I'll get back to you later. Thank you.
You're welcome. Feel free to reach out anytime. Have a great day.
That was Amna. She and her colleagues are participating in different panels across SOT. But ladies and gentlemen, there are just we don't have too much time left. Well, apparently just 1 minute left. Well, we can take 2 more minutes. I just want to request you guys to comment, Professor Kamal, we'll start with you, on Jeffrey Hinton's message. Do you agree with him?
Can you just remind me what that?
So his message was that if we are not careful in the development of AI, there is a strong chance that it could effectively wipe out humanity. And this is the guy who just won the Nobel Prize for his design of neural networks.
Yeah. No, I know Jeffrey Hinton. I think it is an important question, but how it will happen, we can disagree on. And what does it mean by humanity, for example, right? What does wiping out humanity mean? I mean, so the first thing is you need to draw a line between AI and humanity, right? And that line is getting more and more blurred, right, with time. Of course, there was a time that we used to say that, what distinguishes us from animals is language and logic and all those things. And AI can do all those better than us, right, now. So is it already superior to us? And as you said, Kasim, right, so a superior species is not going to look very kindly down on an inferior species. I think the big risk for us is exactly what I said earlier. When students have been socialized into asking AI for every single thing, and AI algorithms giving them answers that are based on particular logics of optimization, the risk is not so much whether machines will become human, but that humans will become more like machine-like, okay? And they will start optimizing for everything. And all the things that make us human and feel what it is like to be human will be gone. Now, if we get into that stage, I don't think we will need machines. Humanity will wipe out humanity. And humanity itself is going to become very, very different from what we like it to be and what we like about the world around us, what it means to be in love and what it means to have a family and children and so on and so forth. We will start thinking about all these things very differently. And at that stage, I think we will already sort of have started wiping out humanity, as you say?
No, I think that's a really interesting response because many people actually do believe that the future is a human machine, some kind of symbiosis where there's some kind of neural implants in your mind, which we've already seen with Neuralink, which enables people with disabilities to communicate. So yeah, I think the future is going to be very interesting indeed. Um, before we conclude, Daniel, I just want to ask you if you what your thoughts on Jeffrey Hinton's speech are. Do you feel very quickly that there is a serious chance of machines overtaking humanity?
I I don't know is the real answer, but at the moment, I cannot perceive a world where AI is interrupting the experiences of death and love, friendships, anxieties, what it means to be human. I think it has a danger of interrupting fascination. I'm proud that my eldest son, who's 12, he just built a computer on his own. And no one asked him to do it. He saved up for it, and he's built it. And for him, that's like fascinating. He loves it. I think there is a danger that AI will interrupt that because everything will become so easily available, or it will do the thinking for him. I'm worried about that bit. I don't think that he will ever get fatherly love from AI in the way that I can just sit next to him and be in his proximity. But maybe it can. Like I can't. Maybe it's just that my imagination is limited in that regard. But I don't see it myself. Maybe I'm limited in my understanding.
No, I think most of us in this room would agree with you. Probably everybody would agree. But as you said, we are in many ways biased by our circumstances and the time in which we live. Um, uh, Ms. Shaza, very quickly, do you want to comment and then we conclude on what your thoughts are on the future of humanity and AI? Can we coexist or is it going to be one or the other?
I think that the the question has become more real than it ever has been. Like I said in the beginning, that the very fine line between reality and virtual reality is becoming more and more blurred, especially with immersive technologies coming in. I will give you a real world example where most of the people sitting here, their kids must be playing a game called Roblox. What is that technology? What it does is that it takes you into a virtual world where there is a complete metaverse with kids hanging out with each other, experiencing the feelings that you would actually in reality do had you been, let's say, going to a park. So while the physical feeling of touch and scent and all of those sensibilities may not be there, but in the true sense, these immersive technologies are creating metaverse worlds, metaverse universities, metaverse hospitals, where our lives are becoming increasingly, it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between the real and the virtual. So this is a very, very apt question to ask right now. How can we at large see prevent it from happening and see how do humans and technologies coexist is a long list of things that we need to do, but certain regulatory measures can help. We see across the world social media platforms being prohibited for children, child safety awareness, again, ethical use of technology, capping compute powers, seeing how that compute does not surpass the levels where it becomes risky for the human capability. But at any point in time, I think that the question is, like Kamal said, The other panelists also mentioned, how do we define humanity? Can our moral reasonings really go into, can AI really pick up an individual's moral reasoning, an individual's cultural identity, their religious sensibilities, their ideas, their social skills? So I think that while it is a very important question to ask and it's more relevant than ever, we still have a long way to go where machines and humanoids now coming in, robotic pets, everything that's converting today will take over. But we definitely have to watch our backs.
Thank you. I think the important thing that my takeaway from this is that at least we're all acknowledging the fact that it's a genuine question. I remember I asked the same question a few years ago in Karachi at the SOT, and the panelists were like, you're crazy, stop watching Netflix. But I think, yeah, now it is something that we need to look at. And yes, you're right, maybe the way in which we perceive humanity or what it means to be human will also change as we evolve. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you guys once again. We have a exciting keynote address still to look forward to from Mr. Daniel Sobel. Um, but before I wrap up, guys, over the next 2 days, there are a lot of interesting panels, conversations, keynote addresses. We have a film screening as well, and we would love for you to be a part of that. The underlying question is, or the underlying theme is the one which was on the screen earlier, which is about co-creating tomorrow, humans, AI, and the future. Um, we also have an incredible immersive art show by BNU. The opening of that is going to be right after Mr. Sobel's keynote speech. So please, I would encourage or invite you all to visit. We have Social Junction, where we have food and music, which is going to, with a lot of interesting food stalls and flash music performances. I'm not sure what to call them, but let's say mini concerts. We have a proper concert on day two, at the end of day two. I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, without whom it would not be possible. I did say in the morning that these events cost a lot of money, but most of that funding comes from our sponsors, so I'm truly grateful to them. So United Bank Limited, thank you for being our platinum sponsor. Allied Bank Limited, thank you for being our gold sponsor. Premier Trading Services Limited for sponsoring our gala dinner tonight. Vateen Telecom for internet connectivity. MK and Kifayat Publishers, and many others who have sponsored, components of this event in kind. I'd also like to thank our partners, our collaboration partners. This time, for the first time, we are co-presenting some of our panels with others, including Tabad Lab, including Cambridge, including LUMS, including ThinkFest, and including the festival. So some of the different, out of the 30 sessions, some of these are being co-presented with these others. Finally, a big thank you to all of our teams who I know have been up for the last couple of nights, because obviously the hotel does not give us the venue weeks in advance. So putting this all together, and this is only one hall. I mean, there are 4 halls like this. There is the lot of other spaces. So thank you guys for your effort. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for being in the audience, and welcome to SOT 19. And now I will hand over to Mr. Tallat Hussain, moderator. Thank you.